Hello everyone, welcome to the True Story channel, and thank you for taking a few minutes to listen. Tonight's story begins in a beautiful ballroom overlooking the dark waters of Newport Harbor. But what happened there was far from a simple celebration. Have you ever been in a room where everyone is laughing, only to slowly realize the laughter is about you? A moment when a harmless joke begins to feel like something deeper, something that has been building quietly for years. That was exactly where I found myself on the night of my sister's wedding. And if you stay with this story until the end, I believe you will begin to see how hidden sacrifices, quiet misunderstandings, and one unexpected decision can reveal truths that have been buried inside a family for a long time. My name is Daniel Carter. I was 30 years old that evening, working in financial technology in Boston. And from the outside, my life looked perfectly stable. But inside my family, things had always followed a different script. My older sister, Rebecca Carter, had long been the pride of the Carter family. She was the one relatives admired and my parents proudly spoke about at every gathering. When Rebecca succeeded, it was celebrated loudly. When I did something similar, it was simply expected. Her wedding reception was held in a grand ballroom near the Newport shoreline. Tall windows reflected the soft lights of boats drifting in the harbor, while inside the room golden chandeliers glowed above white tablecloths and rows of champagne glasses. Guests moved through the hall in elegant dresses and dark suits, while quiet jazz music drifted through the speakers. It was the kind of night that seemed designed for happiness. Then the DJ stepped onto the stage and announced a surprise slideshow prepared by the bridal party. Applause filled the room as the screen behind the stage flickered to life. Childhood photos appeared first, bringing warm laughter from the guests. But then, a new image appeared. An old picture of me from high school. Beneath it were the words, "Most likely to disappoint the family." A ripple of laughter spread across the tables. Rebecca covered her mouth with a smile. My mother raised her glass and said lightly, "Daniel, relax, it is just a joke." My father chuckled softly as the slideshow moved forward with more captions. Professional dreamer. Still figuring life out, since 2009. Family problem child. The laughter grew louder. People glanced toward me, expecting me to smile along. Instead, I quietly reached beneath the table, took out my phone, typed one word, and pressed send, begin. Moments later, the entire room would discover that the story they thought they understood had only just begun. What if the person everyone laughs at in a family is quietly the one holding everything together? Sitting there at that wedding reception, listening to the laughter echo around the ballroom, I began thinking about the past 10 years of the Carter family. If the people in that room had known the real story behind those years, the jokes on the screen might have sounded very different. In my parents' eyes, Rebecca had always been the perfect child. When she earned an A at school, it became a family celebration. My mother would proudly call relatives, and my father would talk about her discipline and talent. When I brought home the same grade, the reaction was simple and brief. "That's what you're supposed to do," my father would say, already turning the page. The difference was quiet, but constant, repeating year after year, until it shaped the way our family saw both of us. Rebecca's choices were always interpreted generously. When she changed majors several times in college, my parents said she was discovering her passion. But when I left a safe business path to build a career in financial technology, they called it reckless. According to them, I was wasting potential. Family holidays slowly became something I learned to endure rather than enjoy. Thanksgiving dinners and Christmas gatherings followed the same pattern. Someone would ask with a smile if I was still working that strange job. Another would joke about when I might finally figure life out. They laughed lightly, as if it were harmless teasing. But a joke repeated often enough becomes something heavier. It becomes a label. What no one in that ballroom knew was how different the truth looked. When I was 22, my father lost his job, and our family struggled to keep up with the mortgage. For 14 months, I worked 2 jobs and quietly helped cover the payments. 2 years later, Rebecca was accepted into a private university in Chicago, and tuition became another crisis. I transferred nearly $20,000 so she could stay enrolled. A few years later, I paid off more than $15,000 in family credit card debt. And every few months, my mother would send the same quiet message, asking for help again. I always sent what they needed, believing that one day, those efforts might change how they saw me. But watching that slideshow continue across the screen, I began to understand something I had avoided admitting for years. Some people never question the story they have already decided to believe. What would happen if the entire room suddenly discovered that the person they had just been laughing at was the one who quietly paid for the celebration around them? The answer began to unfold only seconds after I sent that single message. At first, the change was subtle. The large screen behind the stage flickered once, then again. The cheerful slideshow froze mid-image, and the soft jazz playing through the speakers cut off so abruptly that the silence felt almost physical. Conversations stopped. Chairs shifted. Guests slowly turned toward the stage, confusion spreading across the ballroom. For a moment, the screen went dark. Then a new slide appeared. Black background, white text. Before tonight's jokes continue, here are a few things you might not know. The room grew noticeably quieter as people leaned forward to read. The next slide showed an old photograph of me standing outside our family home years earlier. Beneath it were simple words. Age 22. Worked 2 jobs after his father lost his job. Helped pay the Carter family mortgage for 14 months. A low murmur moved through the tables. The slideshow advanced again. A bank transfer receipt filled the screen. Age 24. Transferred $19,500 toward Rebecca Carter's college tuition. I saw Rebecca's smile fade as the realization began to reach her. Another slide appeared. Age 26. Paid off $15,000 in family credit card debt. By now no one was laughing. The atmosphere in the ballroom had shifted completely. The next image displayed a screenshot of a message from my mother. Danny, we really need help again this month. Beneath it sat a bank confirmation showing a transfer of $4,200. My father stared down at the table. My mother kept adjusting her napkin without looking up. Then the final reveal appeared. A payment receipt from the Grand Harbor Ballroom itself. Deposit for wedding venue. Paid in full. Name, Daniel Carter. Amount, $24,000. A second receipt followed immediately. Catering advance payment. $4,800. The total lingered on the screen for several seconds. $28,800. Then the final sentence appeared quietly across the screen. The same person called the family Disgrace tonight helped pay for this wedding. The laughter that once filled the room was gone. In its place remained a silence so complete that every person present could feel it. What do you do when the truth finally fills a room that once echoed with laughter at your expense? In that moment, as the last slide faded from the screen and silence settled over the ballroom, every person there seemed to understand that the evening had changed. I pushed my chair back slowly and stood. The quiet scrape of the chair legs across the polished floor sounded louder than I expected. One by one, Heads turned toward me. I could feel their attention follow me as I walked toward the stage, where the microphone still waited beneath the dim lights. Rebecca remained seated, her eyes lowered toward the table, her hands folded tightly together. My parents looked just as still, neither of them able to meet my gaze. I lifted the microphone and spoke calmly into the silence. "I wasn't planning to say anything tonight," I said, my voice carrying across the room. "I came here hoping this would simply be a normal family wedding." No one interrupted. The guests watched quietly as I continued. "For years I've been the joke in this family. The disappointment, the one who never seems to do anything right." I paused briefly, letting the words settle in the still air. I kept believing that if I worked harder, helped more, supported everyone when they needed it, maybe things would change. My eyes moved toward my parents' table. But tonight made something very clear. The silence deepened again. Some stories people tell about you are never meant to change. I lowered the microphone slightly. "This isn't revenge," I said quietly. "It's simply the truth." I placed the microphone back on its stand and looked once more toward Rebecca. "I hope your marriage is a happy one." Then I stepped away from the stage and walked toward the doors of the ballroom. No one stopped me. Outside, the cool night air from Newport Harbor moved gently through the quiet parking lot, and for the first time in years, the weight I had carried felt lighter. Some stories end in silence, but others begin the moment someone finally walks away. Thank you for listening to this story on the True Story channel. And if you stay with us, the next chapter may reveal what happened after that night.